Greetings, Dragon Ball fans, and welcome to part 3 of What If Grandpa Gohan Got Through to Goku, where we follow the adventures of little Kakarot in his pursuit of greatness under the strict guidance of his Master Gohan. He is determined that he will prove to his parents that he is worthy of the title Saiyan Warrior. If you are enjoying this series and want to see a slightly more adventurous take on things, head on over to Damon's channel for What If Goku Remembered the Saiyans, which goes in a vastly different direction. There's a link to that video in the description. In the last part, Kakarot had started his adventures with Bulma to see the world and to make sure the powerful Dragon Balls were not used for nefarious purposes. They have picked up Oolong, and while Kakarot is stuck thinking of all the ways to cook pork, beef, or fish, they have encountered both the desert bandit Yamcha and the massive Ox King. His daughter has also proved herself quite resourceful in the eyes of the young Saiyan. While the Ox King may still have offered Kakarot his daughter's hand in marriage, with no... oh, man, it's a kids' show, isn't it? Yeah, well, anyway. With no, innocent pat-pats, Chi-Chi finds herself far less smitten with the boy, though not entirely disinterested. While I would love to meticulously dig my way through the entire Dragon Ball series, doing some sort of in-depth character analysis, things will hopefully accelerate a bit from here on out. Now heading on to the 7th and final blip on Bulma's Dragon Radar, they set off once again. Their trek takes them to Mushroom City, the home of the infamous Carrot Master, or Monster Carrot, or whatever you want to call him. I'm actually using the manga for the story source so I can justify skipping some of the filler. They set about refueling, with normal petrol stev, and Bulma, in her requisite bunny costume, causes the usual stir. When the rabbit guards accost them, she barely has to glance at Kakarot, who wrecks their day with a smile on his face. With the two guards knocked out, the villagers see this and warn them about the Carrot Master. He will come to extract revenge. Also, don't touch him. He can turn you into a carrot. Despite Bulma and Oolong's suggestion to just move on, Kakarot says that they did ask for help, and besides, he knows a great recipe for rabbit stew. He finds the Carrot Master easily enough, coming to check on why his guards hadn't answered, and, well, you know, he kinda gets power-poled. When the beaten Carrot Master reaches for a child to turn him into a carrot hostage, Kakarot has seen enough. Using the weak as a shield? Pathetic. Doesn't he have any pride? His second Kamehameha vaporizes the Carrot Man, inches from his potential hostage. A charred Rabbit Man skeleton hangs for a moment, then crumbles to the ground as the child shrieks. Damn it, he overcooked it. There's no way he can make it into a stew now. The townfolk thank them by not charging for the petrol and supplies, and they carry on to the last ball. On their way, they are of course set upon by Mai and Sho of the Pilaf gang. Momentarily caught off guard by both attacks, Kakarot is knocked back by the mech-suited Sho, and they lose the satchel with the balls. And the capsules, again. It's like a theme, isn't it? Kakarot again uses the power pole and floating feet to vault after the mech, but he's a bit slower than the Nimbus, so it's even longer abandoned than previously. Yamcha was also following them, wanting his wish obviously, so as usual they make nice, and Bulma starts wondering if she even needs her wish anymore. On the plus side, Kakarot still has his 4-star ball of course, but is still determined to not let whoever took the balls to make use of them for something his master would not approve of. They arrive at the castle and are captured and gassed in short order. When they wake up and try to escape, Kakarot's once piddly little Kamehameha is not so little this time round. There is now a gaping hole in the side of the castle. They rush out to intercept Pilaf's summoning of Shenron, but the massive kaboom from the castle distracts the little imp and sets his henchmen into motion. Mai and Sho are suited up and ready for combat, which Kakarot is happy to engage in when Pilaf turns back to splutter out his wish. But before he can, Bulma shouts out that she wants Saiyan armor for Kakarot! Pilaf looks on in horror as a neatly folded packet of armor appears at Bulma's feet. Meanwhile, the battle between Mai and Sho and Kakarot has reached a head. The combination of the two mechs is just enough to overpower the boy, and they finally have him pinned down on the ground, on his back, staring up into the night sky. Now that the dragon has dissipated, there, looming over them, is the full moon. His last words that night, shouted at Bulma and the others, are a distorted, almost rumbling, "Run! Get away!" Bulma, though, is locked in place, seeing him struggle, and then start to change. He quickly outsizes the mechs, and his thrashing sends them both flying. Being a bit more with it, Yamcha grabs Bulma and practically drags her to cover, as the Ozaru howls at the moon and then looks over at the two crumpled mechs, now firmly embedded in the castle's walls. Mai calls out to Sho, but can do nothing as the massive ape starts clambering up the side of the castle, tearing chunks out of it. It reaches for and grabs a hold of Sho's mech, and then crushes it. Bulma chooses this moment to play hero and screams, "Kakarot, stop it!" The ape drops the mech and turns to look back at her, then leaps off the castle, leaving a huge hole behind it. The Ozaru lands in front of Bulma, and when it swipes, Yamcha dives in to save Bulma from the hit. He is instead sent flying, and the massive ape turns to follow his new target. Bulma collapses to her knees and pleads quietly, "Kakarot, please stop." And Kakarot does stop. He turns back to her. And then we get a scene ripped straight out of King Kong, as Kakarot picks Bulma up and eyes her menacingly. She struggles to free herself, but obviously cannot. When he starts to squeeze, she gasps out, "Master Gohan! He wouldn't like this! Master Gohan wouldn't like this!" The beast stops squeezing and stares at her for a while, before dropping her into Bat Puar's grasp. Bat Oolong then joins in to save her from a fall that would probably have been fatal. They creep away as Kakarot roars again and goes to town on what remains of the castle. Bulma can only hug her knees and listen to the smashing and bashing and howling. The next morning, they look out to see nothing of the castle but rubble. The packet of Saiyan armor is right where it dropped, though, and a bruised and battered Yamcha is using it as a pillow. They find the normal-sized Kakarot asleep amidst the rubble, and he wakes up, momentarily unaware of what has happened. He's thrilled to see the armor that Bulma is carrying, but then he sees the rubble around him, and he realizes what must have happened. He has broken his word to Master Gohan. He looked at the moon, despite the promise he made. Bulma tries to console him, but he's really angry at himself for giving in and looking at the moon. When Bulma asks what he means, Kakarot briefly explains about the Saiyans and how they can turn into Ozaru. Putting the pieces together, Bulma asks where Kakarot is from. He can't remember the name of the planet, but... "Planet?" Yamcha says, taking a step away. "You're not from Earth, are you?" Bulma asks. "Yeah, no, not from Earth. An actual alien boy." "So this armor is..." Bulma trails off, staring at the precious alien technology in her hands. "Yep, it's alien armor all right. Not that Kakarot can actually bear to look at it right now." Bulma then asks how he got here, and he explains about his pod. It should be still up there at Mount Paozu, actually. Neither he nor Master Gohan could figure it out, and, well, they didn't want to break it. "But what does it matter?" Kakarot says, dejected. I failed in my quest to bring the ball back, and failed in my promise not to look at the moon." When Bulma offers him the armor, he says to keep it. He's not worthy of it anymore. She tries to convince him otherwise, but her heart just isn't in it. She really wants to take a look at that armor, and that ship. When Bulma tells him about the Dragon Balls resetting in a year, he brightens up a bit. But what will he do between now and then? He can't return both empty-handed and having broken his word. Bulma gives him the radar and says that he can just go and find the ball in a year when they've reactivated again. She also mentions that old pervert had said that he could go train with him, hadn't he? That Roshi creep. Just ignore his, fascination with women, and you should be fine. A little bit happier now, Kakarot agrees to this. If he can return even stronger, then, well, maybe he can teach his master something that Muten Roshi had taught him. That would surely make up for his failures. Lacking the Nimbus, he travels with them to West City, where Bulma gives him a small flying capsule. You know, like the kind from the manga covers. He struggles with it for a bit, but quickly gets the hang of it. Kakarot is flying his first vehicle, and goes all the way to Roshi's island. Since he didn't ride the Nimbus this time, he arrives after Krillin had arrived to also seek Master Roshi's legendary training. They are both tasked with finding a woman, so they take Kakarot's flyer again. It is slower than the Nimbus, and runs out of fuel near a small town. They land and look around for a fueling option, as the innocent blue launch is driven past them in the back of a police car. When they hear her calling for help, Kakarot asks Krillin if she's what Roshi wants. "Oh yeah, come on Kakarot, just look at her," Krillin says incredulously. Kakarot shrugs, then jumps high and lands on the back of the departing police car. He asks if he can borrow her, but the police do not react with, due caution? Being topical again in June 2020, are we? Oh, come on, man, stick to the story. While he dodges and deflects their shots, the hover car carries on, no longer piloted, and crashes into a building. Somewhere in the resulting dust cloud, Kakarot hears a sneeze, then some shrieks, some gunfire, another shriek, and then silence. A blonde woman bursts out of the cloud and stops to look down at the kid as more police come running. Kakarot watches almost amused as the firefight unfolds around him. Well, she is perfect. She'll show that Master Roshi guy how to treat a woman, and Kakarot could certainly learn something about fighting from her, too. As the fighting subsides, Blonde Launch emerges triumphant. And she got her loot back, too. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out a bunch of capsules she'd stolen from the store they'd crashed into, all while she was still being shot at. First is a house. The second is a boat. Third time's the charm, and a plane appears. As she jumps into the cockpit, a stray hair or lingering bit of dust tickles her nose. Blue Launch then looks around in dismay as Kakarot and the no longer hiding Krillin comes up and asks if she wants to come with them. This place doesn't seem too nice. Roshi's training commences with things even further in Kakarot's favor. The rock hunt goes his way, though, as he can smell the thing and then trips Krillin up with the power pole when he tries to make off with it. Krillin's friendship towards the guy grows a bit, though, as he learns about Kakarot's desire to please his parents. They'd cast him out, just like Krillin's previous temple had, so from here on there is much less antagonism from the Cue Ball's side. When they arrive at the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament, they progress quickly through their qualifying matches until the quarterfinalists are selected. They meet Yamcha again, who is happy to see Kakarot, despite what happened last time they met. He and Bulma are progressing slowly but surely, so he's got that to thank the boy for. Oh, well, since he's here, yep, there's Bulma, and she's got something for Kakarot. His armor. She'd analyzed it, and it's amazing technology, but he still doesn't think he can wear it. Master Roshi admonishes him for being so foolish. He can represent his people to their fullest here. Look at Namu over there, and those silly Shaolins in their, sorry, Krillin. He's sure Master Gohan will understand, but what's all this about technology? So, Master Roshi and Krillin both get to learn that Kakarot is in fact an alien, a Saiyan as they're called. Well, that certainly explains a few things, Krillin says, smiling as he realizes that his struggles to keep up with Kakarot are now plainly obvious, that tail being the least of it. The matches are also slightly different this time around. Ranfan is defeated by a man whose face was painted like a rabbit. Krillin still faces and defeats Bacterian after realizing that he doesn't actually have a nose. Ha ha. Then Yamcha faces and is beaten by the almighty Jackie Chun. Namu then goes up against the rabbit-faced man, and despite putting up quite the fight, is knocked out of the ring by what could only be an air punch attack. Kakarot can't quite figure out where he's seen that guy before. The way he moves and the projected palm strike were so perfectly controlled, it didn't even hurt Namu. Next up, though, is Kakarot and Giran. Things progress normally until Kakarot is thrown off guard, wrapped in gum, and then quickly thrown from the ring. As he's about to hit the ground, he puts everything he can into a floating foot kick that he's had a lot of practice using to travel, with the aid of the power pole. He is launched back into the ring and crashes headfirst into Giran, sending the stunned dinosaur out of the arena. The semi-finals are then Krillin vs. Jackie Chun and Kakarot vs. the rabbit-faced man. Again, Kakarot gets a little suspicious, watching the match this time, since there was no Ranfan to bring out Roshi's inner, for Yamcha to spot. Krillin here has improved a bit as well, but ultimately loses to his master in disguise. Next up, Kakarot goes against the rabbit-faced guy, and this match is very close to the original Goku vs. Jackie Chun match. The man compliments Kakarot on his funny-looking armor, and they get stuck into it. The fight goes on for a while until Kakarot finally notices that there is a full moon rising. Remembering his promise, he positions himself to not see the moon, and when he can't help but face it, he closes his eyes, fighting blind instead of risking a look at it. Despite this rather obvious disadvantage, for some reason the rabbit-faced man seems to play along, which both confuses and slightly irritates the little Saiyan. This is no time for half measures though, and Kakarot needs to end it and get inside. He charges up a Kamehameha to knock the rabbit man out of bounds, but hits a very well drawn after image. He looks around cautiously, unable to locate his opponent, before freezing in place. A hand is firmly grasping his tail. The other hand is holding the brilliantly blue ball of a fully charged Kamehameha. And fading to white, we will bring Part 3 to a close. Is Kakarot about to be defeated at the hands of this mysterious rabbit-faced man, who knows more than he should? How will he take it? Could he be satisfied with a loss, or will his Saiyan pride rear its ugly head, Vegeta style? And who is this strange rabbit-faced man? Well, we all know who it is, don't we? But how will Kakarot react to meeting him again? Find out next time on Dragon Ball. What if Grandpa Gohan got through to Goku? I guess technically Kakarot.